He heads the pre-sales for ANZ, India, Europe, and the UK market at Freshworks. So welcome, Praveen. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here for the webinar. And thank you so much for accepting our request and being with us here. Thank you so much, Praveen. Over to you. You can take it forward.
Thank you so much. Let me start sharing my screen. Please let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, we are able to see your screen.
Perfect. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Praveen. Even before we start, I'm just waiting for people to join. But yeah, let's start with this session, right? So even before we start this session, we would have loved to have this session in person because that's exactly how you connect with a lot of people. Now we have started because of this pandemic. We have started living in 2D life where we have been living in Zoom. I spoke about this even to Shankar before the session, right? Where I spoke, like we have been living, eating, breathing, everything on Zoom, and so it's been used to it. So I'm trying to make it a little more engaged, and let's see how it goes, right? So the first slide usually doesn't have an impact, and that's because you know about the topic in which we're going to talk about. So first lesson, first tip: if there is no impact, please don't put your efforts there. Right? That's exactly what we're going to talk for another 90 minutes is all about. Right? We're going to talk about where you got to put effort and where you're going to get impact out of it. Right? So everybody knows about today's topic. We're going to talk about scalable sales model. But just give me a second. Cool. This is the second slide, right? Where I wanted to concentrate much because this might create an impact for you guys. So this is Praveen, and I've been with this industry for around 13 years. Before Freshworks, for 5 years, I've been with TCS, and I've learned a lot of things as a failed entrepreneur as well. So on the startup front, I know where exactly things can go wrong and how it has to be corrected. So I'm very proud to say this. I'm a failed entrepreneur as well, right? So with that, let's get into today's topic on scalable sales model. First of all, even before we talk about this scalable sales model, let me tell you one thing, which is actually the reality, right? There is not one size which is going to suit all, right? So these are guidelines which, from my experience, we have built it, which it's been successful for a lot of people when I did my consultation, right? And that's exactly where I started coining the entire acronym for this, right? But these are guidelines which are successful guidelines, and this can definitely throw some light on areas where you got to concentrate, which you would have overseen it for this long. Yeah. So we're going to talk about all this, but we're going to make it more interactive. We have around 48 people, which is a good number coming in. And if that's the case, we got to make this interactive, right? So there is a challenge, right? When you're going to do a Zoom session, it's always a challenge because we don't know what people are actually reacting to. We don't know where people are interested about, where people are even focusing on, right? So it is always difficult to do a Zoom session, but we are learning and we are evolving as good presenters on Zoom as well. So one way to make it more engaging, which was a massive success in all the sessions which I have done, is using this menti.com, right? Just have your phones ready. If possible, you can go into menti.com and type this code there, right? It will ask for a code. You can type this code. It's 98810238. Not a phone number, but yeah, it is a code in menti.com. And this is how we're going to do this. We're going to make it more interactive, and we're going to get suggestions from 50 people. We have around 50 people now, right? So what's going to make this entire 90 minutes interesting is we're going to get different perceptions from people, right? And that is going to sow a lot of seeds when it comes to startups. That is going to give you a lot of insights on how you have been thinking and how the world has been thinking and where you've got to correct yourself. Or where you can a pat at your back saying that, you know what, I have been doing a good job here, right? So with that, let's get into today's topic. So even before getting into topic, this is the acronym which I told you, right? Even if you're going to Google about this, you're not going to get it because this is something which I coined by myself, right? This is from the experience what I have got. I call this as a wall model, right? Maybe I'm a Dravid fan as well. Maybe that is also one of the reasons. But yeah, this has been called as wall just to make you people understand this more effectively, right? We are going to talk about each and every letter in this. We are going to talk about what W is, A is, and the two L's are. But even before we get into this, it's a question time. So I don't know how many people already we have got some answers on this, right? This is the first question. For any scalable organization, what do you think would be the first block, right? The building block. We are getting some good responses, a good product market fit. Definitely, yes. Team, product, motivated resources. That's debatable. And that too for a startup, yes. Predefined the process, even that is little debatable because when the beauty of startup is you don't have a process. This is the fun part, as I told you, right? There are 52 people, almost 27 people are given responses, and you get different perceptions, right? If I'm going to ask you all to unmute and talk, you're not going to get this, right? But you're going to give you a medium where you can type whatever comes in your mind, and you get so many good responses. We're going to talk about motivated resources, any whichever way. Clear, measurable goals. Belief, yes. Conviction is also much needed. GTM, I'm proud that there is somebody who has spoken about GTM because I belong to that org. Let me quickly start the timer as well because this is one thing which I'm bad at. Time management. We're just waiting for 5 more responses to come in. Fun, yes. Problem to solve, opportunities, purpose, realistic goal, customer obsession. Wow, okay. PTAM, scalability. Scalability, I don't think you need to worry about when it comes to startup. But yeah, we have got 51 people, almost 51 people. Very, very good number of responses, right? So yeah, we're going to stop here, right? But yeah, you can get your answers coming in. We are going to revisit this slide again, but thank you so much for those unique answers coming in, right? Getting into this, what is the first letter in the wall, which is the first building block for any organization? A lot of people have heard about this, which is motivated workforce, right? Motivated people as such, right? This is very important if you ask me, right? And a lot of our startups, including mine, right? We never thought about this as the first building block. Obviously, product fitment, opportunities, problems. We think about all this, but the basic first building block for any problem or any opportunity or any organization to scale will be workforce, right? And why are we talking about workforce? We're going to talk about this. Second is, how do you assess because once you open up this to the world, right? When you're going to have so many people coming in, you might get leads from every single source possible. You're going to get leads from social media. You're going to get leads from whatever nook and corner it is, right? And you've got to assess which lead to even work on and which lead not to work on. This is tying back to my first slide logic. There is no impact. Please don't put your effort there. So we're going to talk about assess. This is if you ask me, this is the go-to word for any scalable organization. Lead to cash. What's the time and what exactly we got to do when it comes to lead to cash? That's a superset if you ask me. Subset of that is how are you going to land and expand? A lot of people have spoken about scalability as well, right? We're going to talk about land and expand. So this is the wall model. You're going to talk about workforce. How are you going to assess your leads? What is that you're going to learn about lead to cash, right? How are you going to identify your potentials very quickly in your pipeline? And how are you going to land and expand, right? Coming to workforce, there are 3 building blocks, sub-building blocks, if you ask me, right? Which a lot of us actually oversee, right? This is for any organization. Let it be service industry-based startups. Let it be SaaS-based startups. Let it be any startup, FMCG startup. Let it be any startup for that matter. I think these 3 things are the key, right? First and the third key, the sub-building block, might sound little similar, but they have a lot of differences. And by experience, I can tell you, as important like the first one is as important as the third one, right? And we're going to talk about uniform. First, coming to coachability, right? You've got to select your people wisely, right? You can't take people who are like, you know that these people are excellent when it comes to the product knowledge. You know that these people are the definite subject matter experts in your industry. You might know that these people are, they can definitely add value with their experience. All this said and done, you need to understand how coachable these people are, right? If you're going to spend a major chunk of your man hours in just coaching, right? And that too, creating a little impact, right? That's where the problem starts. So you got to hire, your workforce have to be that bunch of people who are easily coachable, who they don't get offended for feedbacks, right? Because when you're going to hire people and you're going to tell them this is not how it has to be done, it has to be tweaked a little bit, and if they get offended, then the productivity is going to get a hit, right? So it has to be a workforce which has to be coached. Second very important point, this I understood only after the process were put in place. A lot of people have spoken about process, right? Uniformity is very important. The crux of your company, you define the crux of your company, the underlying conviction of your company. Any department for that matter would have that as the crux. Their training modules can be different. The modus operandi of training can be different. The way, the time it takes to ramp up can be different for each sub-organization of your company. But the underlying conviction has to be the same. For Freshworks, if you ask me, from the day I joined in 2016 till date, right, one very important point which our CEO talks about again and again is EX is equal to CX, right? That has not changed. The wordings might have changed. The way we are coining the term would have changed, right? But the conviction has not changed. You keep your employees happy, and in turn, they keep your customers happy. That's the conviction. So you need not have the same conviction, but there has to be some conviction for your company. You've got to have that crux which can't be changed. You can't change that frequently. So that is uniformity. From there on, start building your process on training, right? So you got to train these people uniformly, and that's exactly how you're going to make them more effective. The third very important thing, which I told you, is coaching abilities. This, when I spoke about this in one of the startup meetings, right? A lot of people ask me about the difference between coachability and coaching abilities, right? There is a jarring difference. Coaching ability is you need not take the leaders out of your workforce. That too, when you're going to have a startup, you're going to build your workforce. They need not be leaders, but they need to be mentors. Because these set of 10 people, these set of 20 people are going to build your organization, are going to be responsible for building your organization from 100 people to 100,000 people, maybe, right? So we started with 4 people. We started with 3 people. Now we are almost 4,000, 5,000 employee company, right? And how did it all start? It's because of these 3, 4 people who were there in the beginning, like early days. They were excellent mentors, if you ask me. More than the product knowledge, more than the subject matter expertise. These are the set of people who are very, very good coaches, right? They are going to be responsible for your workforce. They are going to tell you how your workforce is going to be built, how your workforce is going to be shaped, the culture, right? Everything is going to revolve around people, the first set of people whom you're going to hire. And they're going to be very, very good mentors. That's exactly what you need. All the other things, I think it will evolve as a team member. But coaching abilities, please see to that you get people who are very, very good mentors. That's going to help you. When you have a team, it is sorted. Half of your problem is sorted. Believe me, half of your problem is sorted. They know what to work on. All the other things which you told, right? Let it be the customer obsession. Let it be, everything is connected to that central fulcrum, people, right? Let it be knowing about target audience. Let it be your idea, right? Let it be your belief, cracking sales process. If you are going to tie back all this, it will be tied back to your workforce. And people with good coaching ability and people who can be coached easily are the ones who want to be building that strong workforce for you, right? With that, the workforce, like you have set the workforce. What next? There's a lot of people who ask this question. Yes, I do have a smart bunch of people. I know their process. I have given them the training modules. I know how to like iron out the problems, and these are very good mentors. What next? Right? You have the team in place. You have the product in place. Right? Next problem. See, I'm just skipping all the usually like places where there will be products. There's so many people who have started building their own company, which is a very very good thing if you ask me for a for a startup. If you ask me, I should call this as a startup circuit across our country. Right, this is very much needed. You see so many unicorns coming in 2020 alone. Right, you see so many people going IPO last year alone. Right, that is exactly what you need. But when you're going to have this startup culture, when you're going to build that circuit, when you're going to build that network, right, you're going to get leads from everywhere. I'm telling you, getting leads, and that too for a startup in India, is not a problem. If you have a very, very good product, if you have a very, very good workforce, I think getting in leads, building your pipeline will not be a problem at all. Maybe during pandemic, there are certain companies which might struggle getting their leads. But barring all that, I think getting leads, and that too from the startup network, getting from this circuit is going to be very easy. But the problem is not about building a pipeline. It's not about the funnel. It's about the fag end of the funnel, right? Are the leads getting converted into potentials, and are these potentials getting converted into customers, right? So we're going to talk about that, right? Why should someone assess these things, right? Why should someone assess leads, right? There are three things, right? If you go to if you're going to Google about this, you're going to browse about this, there will be zillions of pages coming in, and different words would be used, but the crux is the same, right? Why should you assess a lead, right? There are only three things to this, right? One is, you know, the timelines of prediction. Like you know, you can predict your timelines. You know when this lead is going to get turned into potential and when they're going to turn into customer, right? There are ways of finding using the customer engagement itself, which we are going to talk about in the later stage, right? On how to identify customers, we're going to talk about it a little later. But predictability is very important, right? Any company for that matter, predictability is very, very important, right? Let it be your revenue, let it be your attrition, let it be your marketing spendings, let it be the product pipeline. All this will be like coming back to one point, which is prediction, right? How are you going to predict things, and how is your prediction? You can have a plus or minus 5 to 10%, which is okay, right? But predictability is a very, very, very important thing where you got to concentrate, and that too, when it comes to timelines, predictions is very, very important, because that's when you're going to get clarity about your revenue, right? So assessment helps you in predicting your timelines. Second, this ties back again to the first slide, right? You don't create an impact, don't put your effort there, right? So if there are leads where you know that these are customers who are not interested, why should you put your effort there, right? Your sales cycle might increase. Your workforce might get demotivated when they're going to concentrate on leads or potentials, which is not going to get you revenue, right? So it saves a lot of efforts for you. Third very important thing, when you're going to save effort and when you're going to have a proper predictable model in your hand, then forecasting revenue is going to be easy. right? So assessing your leads, which is coming from different funnels, right? Now people, like almost 70% of the people go to at least 3 or 4 competitors even before they fix a product. This is the latest trend, right? They have so many options. They have so many social media network through which they would be able to get insights about it, reviews about it, right? So if that's the case, you're going to have leads coming from different sources. You've got to predict, you've got to save your effort, put your effort in the right places, and then you've got to forecast it, right? But all this is, everybody knows about it, right? What's a new thing about it, right? But how are we going to do this, right? Let it be band model, let it be any scoring model. I'm not going to talk about models, right? I'm not going to make this as a Gyan session where we're going to talk about models, no, right? Because this is one place where I'm going to just share my experience. So I'm not going to talk about models. Google is a better place. YouTube is a better place where they talk about models. I'm not going to talk about models. But by my experience, I can tell you scoring and qualifying your leads is very, very important. And how I do it is with these 5 pillars, right? One, you've got to understand whether that customer has budget. This is pretty simple. You've got to know about this. Your workforce has to know about it. When you're going to have uniform training being done, when you know that you're going to take these workforce inside and you're going to train them, at least the GTM team, you're going to train them in a particular way, they will know whether this customer has budget or not. Mostly customers, maybe in UK and Europe, they will be a little more vocal when it comes to saying whether they have budget or not. Right? There are industries, there are regions where they don't even tell you, but you have your signals through which you can identify whether these people have a budget or not, right? So, and there is a seasonality also, right? There are certain companies which would spend their entire savings on new products, on experiments in the fag end of the year, like meaning November, December. There are certain industries, certain regions which spend this in the in your fiscal year, which is April, March or April, March usually. Right? You identify that with your experience and score them across their budget. If they have budget, put your effort. Else, you can have relationship, but you don't put your effort there. Right? And you got to understand, are you talking to the right people? Authority. Right? You can talk, like you can have a call. I had a customer for whom we went on almost 7 calls a day, not in a month. In every day, minimum, I'm not exaggerating this, every day, minimum of 7 calls I had, right? But the problem is that customer was the individual was just an influencer. He was not the decision maker, right? Decision maker was someone else. I failed in this and I understood that, yeah, influencers can help, but after a position, right, it has to be the decision maker. The influencer has to put that sound. He has to make that noise to make the decision maker understand that this is the right product for which they need to spend, right? So understand who the authority is and talk accordingly. It can be the CTO, it can be the CXOs, it can be the system administrator for that example, right? They can change a lot of things for you, right? If it comes to SaaS, yes, system administrator, but even the bottom up approach at times it works. Third, very, very important thing, which is very close to my heart, is urgency, right? If you have a problem, right, and that's exactly why you're evaluating some solutions, then it's easy for you to sell to them, right? But if it is going to be that window shopping, what people are doing, it's going to be tough, right? So you got to understand that urgency. Urgency is very, very important, I'm telling you, because that's exactly what is going to help you in predicting your timelines, right? You need to understand what the urgency is, right? I would have coined a word, but that will again become a model. So I didn't coin a word here. I can definitely coin one in maybe in a week's time. But yeah, urgency is very, very important, and you got to know about the competitors. As a startup, I think I don't know how many of us do this. Once we get in, once we do this market research, once we do our market study, get in, and once we are out global. After that, I think after the market research, we stop doing this competitor analysis. We stop building our battle cards. Battle cards for your workforce is very, very important. Let it be any service. Let it be FMCG. Let it be services industry. But battle cards are very, very important, and they play a very, very important role, because you need to know about your competitors, and the competitors might change every 6 months. Your competitors might change, your competitors' offerings might change. So battle card has to change. Battle card has to be updated. Every 6 months, have your battle cards updated, right? And that's exactly how you're going to know about the strength and weakness of your customer. And that's exactly how you got to play. Because this is an industry where there is going to be very tight competition from a lot of people. And that's the case. You got to know your competitors, and you got to have this being written somewhere so that your team knows about it. So the last part is paperwork. Just because it's been placed in last, it doesn't take the last priority. If you ask me, a lot of huge deals, right, get stopped, not only for our company, any company for that matter. I think a lot of people will agree to this. Lot of your good deals, high value deals, gets stopped at paperwork because of that one contract, because of that one clause which your legal team said that they can't remove, because of that one page where it talks about liability, right? There are so many. There can be instances where compliance is very, very much needed, and that you don't know, right? The customer talks about the compliance only in the paperwork. So it's much better to start your paperwork as early as possible, right? Within, like, let's say if you're going to take an example of 1 month sales cycle, it's better to start this in the end of first week or even the second week. Let it be whatever the outcome of the entire process engagement is going to be. But starting your paperwork as early as possible will do two things for you. One, it makes it little more serious. The entire process gets a little more serious because it's going to be on paper, right? So there will be a sense of urgency from people. Second, you will know where the roadblocks are. You will know where the red flags are, and you would be able to alert people, and it will be more of a smooth sail, if you ask me, right? So with that, we are finished with workforce and assess. Is there any questions? I think there are quite a bit of questions coming in. I'm just reading the questions. Okay, you can put your questions on the Q&A session, then I'll see to that it's getting answered. Right? So if there is any questions, I can wait for 30 seconds, and you can please put so that we can take this forward. Is it applicable to any domain star? Can you rephrase it so that I can, because I'm sorry, I'm not able to understand the question. How do you start paperwork early in the sales cycle? Be vocal about it. Pretty simple, Charles. So you got to be a little more vocal about it. And people love this. I'm telling you. And that too, people from ASEAN regions, people from the ANZ region, people from even the US region now started loving people being vocal about it, right? You can start asking them about the paperwork. You can start, it need not be so explicit, but you can start asking them what type of paperwork would be there once you're fixed on the product, right? It can start, even if it is not paperwork, you know where you might have risk. You know where you have these potholes. It can be the liability clause. It can be compliance. Start talking to them about it. It starts giving you that seriousness, right? So nobody thinks wrong about it. And it actually gives more confidence for your customers. So start talking about your paperwork at least in the 1.5 to 2 weeks, so that people know that, okay, these people are serious about the process, and let's put in our 110%. Right? Cool. This is very interesting, right? Coming to the lead to cash process, right? Again, here with my experience, I have coined something where you can identify where you got to put your effort. One. Second, how to identify customers and how to talk to these customers, right? These are guidelines, and this will definitely help you, like at initial stages when you're going to start following this, experimenting this, right? You will have your teething issues. You will have problems in understanding which bucket these customers fall into. But I can write down and give it to you by like 6 to 7 months or even 1 year. You'll be able to evolve that model. You know which bucket these customers fall under, and you will be able to take that forward. So I call this as a safer model, right? This is nothing related to pandemic, but yeah, it has been coined this way because every single letter has a meaning to it. Starting with yes, which is how are you going to secure your customers? How are you going to secure your potential, right? So there are 4 categories. This is a very, very important topic. And I love this because this is out of my experience of 13 years. I have written this and it has helped me even now, right? It has been helping me to identify which customer falls under which bucket and how should I even talk to these customers, right? So the first one, we call them as drivers, right? And these are customers who are a little impatient, right? They want things to be done now. I have a classic example now, right? Meaning today, even before the session, right? I had a customer, not a customer as such, but she was my ex-boss, right? And she falls under this category, right? She's from my previous company, right? So there is some problem which has to be solved, right? And for that, she told me, yeah, Praveen, I want to solve this problem and I want you to consider. I told her that this is how it has to be solved and this is exactly what you've got to do. And she is like, can we do it now? Can we finish it now? Right? So these are people who wants to do it right now. Though they know that problems can't be solved immediately, but these are the drivers category, right? They have a very, very poor listening skill, right? You got to control the entire process, right? Else it might derail, right? And the good part about them are they are very outspoken, right? They don't think about this. They won't have this mentality of should I talk to Praveen about this? No, they're very outspoken, and that's a very, very good part about it, right? And how to sell to these customers is if they are going to talk and if they're going to have that poor listening skill, you keep your solutioning short. You have your pitches short. It can be elevated pitches, nothing more than that, right? You need not even push on the process because they want things right now, right? So you need not even push. You need not even put that sense of urgency because they are already already there. They want things right now. And for them, you need not talk about the product. You've got to talk about their problem, right? Somebody told about this in when we collected data, right? That's exactly the crux. You've got to talk about the problem to these people, right? You cannot go and talk to drivers, like the category called as drivers, saying that, you know what, you have a problem in torque. Like if you take a car, right? You have a problem in your torque. You have a problem in your horsepower, right? They're not going to even care about it. But when you're going to talk to them saying that, you know what, 0 to 100 miles per hour, your car has to do, but it's actually doing only 20 miles per hour, right? So there is a problem and we know what the solution is. That's exactly how you got to talk to this drivers category, right? So identifying them is very easy, and this is exactly how you got to sell. Second is analysts, right? If you're going to ask my team, they tell that I fall under this category, but I don't know. But yeah, these are people who want to do it in the right way, right? They give a lot of attention to detail. They ask you a lot of questions, right? Maybe you might, if you're not going to record the entire conversation, what you're going to have with your drivers, either in email or on chat or let's say on some conversation possible, right? You're going to be lost because they even don't know what they are spoken, right? But this category of people ask a lot of questions. You need not even document it because they have it in their mind. They have a very, very planned approach. The project managers, the IT specialists fall under this category, right? Where they give attention to detail, they ask you a lot of questions, and they project plan the entire engagement for you, right? For them, you've got to talk with data, right? The sales cycle would be a little longer because they ask a lot of questions, they take time in evaluation. but their evaluation will be structured. If they put that fullest 100% in that, it means that you have already been selected and this customer is, this potential is not a potential, they are going to be a customer, right? So that is the analyst. Third is a team worker, right? You see a lot of people from Southeast Asia, from India, right? From Pakistan, from a lot of our neighboring countries as well. They fall under this category where they are teamwork. They are very good listeners. They need explanation for every single thing, right? And the best of all, they are relationship oriented, right? One of the huge customers, one of the huge accounts for Freshworks, right, was one, and it was a head-on collision which we had with one of our competitors, and we won this by relationship, right? Only relationship, because almost the same offering is what both the products gave them, but just because of the relationship and culture, we were able to win them, right? So that plays a very important role. So you got to be honest. You got to tell. I have a very interesting story which I'm going to connect it back. I'm going to talk about this in one of the desire segments. But yeah, you got to act as a consultant. You got to be honest, and you got to build that personal relationship with them. And that is exactly how you're going to win a team workup bucket of people. So the last bucket is expressive, right? Where they go with their intuitions, right? They are very similar to your drivers, but the one important thing is they are confident. They are very, very confident about the entire engagement, right? And for them, social proof is very important. You got to tell them that their competitors have been starting and they have already started using it, right? You got to talk to them about their competitors. You got to talk to them about the reviews, the Gartner review, what you've got, the LinkedIn reviews, what you've got. You got to talk about all this, and that's exactly how you're going to get the expressive set of people by your product, right? So if you keenly watch this, right, it's easy to remember all this, right? And I call this as GATE, right? It's a very controversial topic. I'm not getting into that, but I call this as GATE, right? Where D stands for your drivers, analysts, team workers, and expressive. So these 4 buckets, which I told you, right? Start mapping your customers or potentials or leads into these 4 buckets. It is little tough for the first 6 to 7 months. Then it becomes a habit. Once you start mapping them, you know how to target them, how to talk to them. And from there on, there's no looking back. The second very important thing is adoption, right? I know there are around 66 people here, right? I want this one very genuine answer, right? I don't want you to type this on chat, but just think about this. A lot of us would have used MS Office, right? But how many of us, like touching our heart, can tell that, you know what, MS Office, MS PowerPoint, or let's say MS Excel, MS Word for that matter, we would have used it to the fullest. We know every single button available, we know every single functionality available, and we have adopted everything in our organization. No, there is only 12 to 13% of feature set in Excel, which even the best of the Excel gurus are using. Right? That's adoption. It need not be that complicated. But adoption is if somebody can get at least that 50-60% of your product, they're going to stick with you. Right? So adoption plays a very, very important role. And how can we create that adoption is by these 4 methods, right? Not methods, but yeah, these are guidelines. You got to create that desire for your customer, right? Here I have a small story. This is exactly what I told you. This is relationship oriented as well, right? Wherein what exactly happens is, this is for a customer. They were from the European region, right? This was like in my early days of Freshworks, Fresh Desk. It was called as Fresh Desk at that time, right? At that time, we had a product where we had our live chat, our calling tool, everything inside a single Fresh Desk skin, right? And so live chat, wherein if 2 people are there, they can chat. Like you can chat to an agent if the agent is available. And then we move to the messaging tool. But before that, it was just a live chat which we had, right? A customer came to us and said, you know what, we want a messaging tool for our customer base. And we are looking out for around 200, 300 people. That's how the conversation started. And we had a head-on collision with a competitor of ours, where even they wanted to pitch their product. But the best part was, their desire was towards a messaging tool, It's like a WhatsApp or a Facebook Messenger, where customers can come and drop the message, and agent, when they are available, they can see that message and reply. But we never had that infrastructure. So for them, we identified that, yeah, these people fall under the team worker category, and not because of the relationship, but these are very focused and you got to be honest with them. So we told them that, you know what, we're going to build something for you, because that's exactly the advantage of a startup. Like if you get a huge customer and if you know that there is a potential of growth for that product, you start building that product. We said we currently don't have, but we will give you a proposal. We never copy pasted. We wrote a 60-page proposal for them for a product which is not even available. We said this is how we are going to deliver it. At the same time, on the flip side, the competitor was talking to them, and they started talking about their ideology, right? They started questioning their desire. They started questioning their conviction, saying that, you know what, you need not even go to messaging. You've got to use live chat only. That's where the relationship between them got strained a little bit. And they said, culture-wise, I think Freshdesk is a right fit. If you can pull this off, if you can pull a product like this, then I think we are in. You won't believe our Freshdesk messaging tool, earlier called as Fresh Chat, right, was born that way. Then we started building this tool. We took that 1.5 to 2 months, right? We had them as a continual partner. And October 10th, 2017, if I remember right, we launched Fresh Chat, which is the Freshdesk messaging tool currently, right? Why I'm talking about the date is because October 8th, we signed our first contract for the product. When you know that they have the desire, when you know that a product fitment and the paradigm is going to shift, why not you go and give them the solution, right? Second is about awareness. There are a lot of latent pain which your customers might not even know. So you got to create awareness about this product, and you got to tell them how you can solve with your product. And that's exactly how the adoption is going to increase. And more importantly, you got to have champions in that company. Your customer base has to have at least one champion who can talk about our product to their management, right? But without desire, that will not happen, right? So have that champion being built. The first story which I told you, right? We had a champion there. That was exactly because of relationship we built. We had a champion. She was in love with the product, right? And that's exactly how she was able to go and convince the management, and we got one of the biggest customers of that time for Freshdesk, right? You got to have the champion in place. And when it is going to be a SaaS-based product, training materials are very important. A service or a SaaS-based product, you got to have a training material which is going to help them understand what the adoption is and how to adopt it much further, right? And then comes the familiarize, right? This is, as a customer, once they come in, right, then we don't concentrate much on them. But the problem starts there. You got to start familiarizing your product and the features to them, right? Else this is not going to happen. So you got to have continuous connection with these people. You got to talk to them. Your customer success people can do this, right? You can identify their problems continuously. Give them more adoption tips, right? People are actually looking out for places where they can score, meaning places where they can use your product to the fullest. If that's the case, you've got to make it more familiar for these people, right? So that is exactly what Familiarize is all about, and you've got to do that when it comes to your product, right? So that's the first part where you've spoken about the superset which I told you, the safer model, right? Lead to cash. The first three things which I told you, let it be secure, adoption, and familiarizing your customer is the first part. The second, the two other letters being given here, right? Which is your expand and retain, right? That is very, very important to stop churn. For a startup, more important building block will be avoiding churn and leakage than getting your customers. For every new customer you're going to get, you're going to lose $1.5 if there is going to be a churn, right? For every $1 what you're going to get in as a revenue, churn costs you $1.